Discover the shocking habit to reduce pain and optimize mobility in today's episode with Michael Landau. Now, Michael Landau is a Feldenkrais practitioner for 30 years, and he teaches mindful movement and helps his clients create healthy habits of physical activity. And he's an advocate of tiny self-care habits that lead to long-term wellness. So, Michael, tell us, what's this shocking habit to reduce pain and optimize mobility? Heal Podcast with Lily Patrascu shares longevity and anti-aging techniques to stay young forever, increase energy, overcome addiction, and live your longest, best life ever, shared by world's most innovative, alternative, and traditional health thought leaders, healers, and doctors. Discover quantum healing strategies to heal your mind, body, and soul.
Okay, so the whole idea of what I'm teaching is that you can change. So this is the basic assumption. We can change, we can improve, we can learn and become better by learning, practicing, observing, and being mindful of the way we are in the world. And movement is simply a very good laboratory to do that. So we use movement as an object of observation in order to learn, and we actually learn how to learn when we do that, so that we can improve ourselves as human beings and not just movement. So you improve movement on the very surface of things, and you get to improve the way you manifest in the world in general.
Thank you. So tell us about this shocking habit. What is it? What do we need to do in order to implement this particular mindful, mindful movement?
Yeah, so being mindful of your movement is a decision that you make again and again as a practice. So I'm offering it as a practice. I have a membership in which I'm offering a daily practice of 3 minutes, so you can make it really short and just turn on the switch of attention and being mindful of the small details of what you're doing. So you can do it for a very short period. If you do it repeatedly as a practice, it becomes a habit, and a habit of learning and improvement, and you actually move better with time. So anything that you like doing or want to do in your life, it can apply to any action. It gets better over time.
Thank you. So tell us what makes this mindful movement different from what we normally do, which is like walk to work or I don't know, play tennis or something. What makes this different?
So the particularity of this kind of work, and this is specific to Feldenkrais, and I haven't seen it in any other method, is that you strip the action from a goal. So you're not trying to achieve anything. You're not trying to do a good posture. You're not trying to do to do it well, to do it stronger, to do it faster. You actually take the action, any action, and you can create a class over any kind of movement. So the material for exploration is infinite. You simply observe the details of what you are doing. And this is the way our brain learns originally. This is how we learned all of our skills in the first couple of years of life, by simply moving and paying attention. And if you look at a baby just moving, and it looks arbitrary, but very often you can almost feel their focus on the details of what's happening, the feedback that they get from their body, and the result that they get in the world, so they can see their hands moving. In the beginning, we don't have any skills at all. So the way we develop skills and then improve on them is by focusing, paying attention, playing with options, varying, doing things that work and doing things that don't work as a learning process. And we use this as adult in a refined way, so we can do it in a much shorter time.
Thank you. So tell us why this habit of mindful movement helps.
The application of this kind of work are many. So you can reduce pain, reduce discomfort, and simply be more comfortable with your skin. This is a result that happens over time simply by improving your inner organization. The way you hold yourself, the way you breathe, the way you reach, the way you stand and walk. These are the foundations of just being in the world and moving around, and they improve over time simply by working on them and paying attention and learning to improve them. And then, so very often the result is reduced pain and discomfort. So you just feel more comfortable, and you can apply it to any specific skill that you want to improve. So it is very applicable and very useful for athletes, for circus people, for musicians. It's you can apply it to whatever it is that you're doing in daily life.
Okay, so tell us what kind of conditions mindful movement helps optimize or at least reduce.
So I'm not a medical professional, I'm a teacher. So I don't deal with symptoms. But very often people with back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, all of these kind of things that tend to be chronic. So it's not an injury anymore. It's more of a brain pattern that became habitual, and it's kind of part of your life. It is very often reduced and relieved by this kind of work. So I don't pretend to treat any kind of symptom. And if you have any pathology, by all means, consult your doctor and not me. But this can accompany you into a new way of organizing yourself that doesn't include pain or discomfort.
Thank you. So what I've noticed from noticing some of my friends or relatives that are a little bit older is that one of the things that I believe they're missing the most when they're in their 70s is either the lack of mobility or the reduced mobility versus what they used to do. So for example, let's say like right now, I could like open the door, and because I have the freedom, I don't have children, right? I could literally like just open the door and I could literally go anywhere. Okay. And I could walk for 22 kilometers and I could return on the same day, and I have the freedom to do it. Right. And I think that a lot of people don't think about that. And what they end up doing is they take the car to work every single day until one day, actually, they find that they have reduced mobility. And I wonder, how does the mindful movement help with mobility if you were to compare it to just like walking or other activities one might do? Is it the fact that you're more aware of your movement that helps? What is the exact thing that you feel that makes a bigger difference?
So yeah, as you say, it is quite obvious that in our modern society we move too little. So our ancestors, hunters, gatherers, didn't have to invent exercise. They just moved around enough, and this kept them mobile throughout their lives. So yeah, it is true that most of my clients are over 50, and where you start to feel this, that you're losing mobility because you don't move enough and you don't use the whole range of possibilities of your body. So what I do in my particular way of teaching it, and this is something unique that I kind of invented during the pandemic, is a very short daily practice. So I don't pretend that these 3 minutes a day replaces any other movement, and the rest of the day you just sit on your butt and don't move, and you'll be fine. This is not the idea. The 3 minutes of paying attention to yourself in movement actually make you move more and better. And it also, what I find out, it gives you more desire to be in movement because you enjoy it, because you feel yourself more. You're more whole as a person with your body. So the idea is to encourage you to move more. It's not that mindful movement replaces exercise. Of course, we need to walk. We need to as we grow older, we need to do some muscle work, some strength training, and some cardio training. It is necessary, and I do it. But with this skill of awareness that I have developed, I know I have more intimate knowledge of what I'm doing. I can avoid injury more efficiently, and I think that the thing that really matters is that I enjoy being in movement. So I do go to the gym and I do go for walks and I try to be in movement because I'm also sedentary because this is kind of the environment that we've created. So we need movement in general, but when you're mindful of your movement, you move better, you tend to move more, and you enjoy movement, so you have more joy in your life, basically.
Thank you. For those that are already experiencing pain, why does mindful movement help to reduce it?
So the way we work with movement is we reduce muscle tone to the minimum. We work within the range that is really easy. And this is where you become very sensitive to the small details of what you're doing. You can explore the patterns of movement that you have developed. And these patterns, if you have pain, your movement patterns, the brain patterns, the things that you do repeatedly every day, include pain. It is part of the way your movement is organized. So you have to change those patterns, the things you do habitually, the things you do every day, and things that most people have no idea that they're doing. So how you breathe, how you hold yourself, how you turn to look. The very foundation of movement is pretty much invisible because they are very well ingrained habits. So to change them, you must work with your awareness, you must pay attention. And most people don't ever do it. So when you take the time and do it repeatedly, you develop this skill of actually changing the way you organize yourself for action. And very often, this results in eliminating or reducing pain.
Thank you. I was always curious about people who are kind of older and they start to have reduced mobility. So is the reduced mobility caused by literally not moving enough, like you said earlier? Or is it just like a normal thing of aging to just simply have reduced mobility?
So we actually know from observing the very few original people or hunter-gatherers that are still on Earth, that actually they tend to move more as they age. They may not reach such an older age on average as we do in our modern society, but they don't really lose mobility as they age because they keep moving, and they actually do more as they age, as they don't have to take care of small children anymore. And it is pretty well known and established in the science of brain development. There is the saying that it's a use it or lose it brain. The parts that you don't use kind of atrophy. They stop working. They become weaker simply because there is no energy put into them, so you lose them. It is true for all of our body functions. The functions, the skills, the possibility of movement that we naturally have, if we don't use it, over the years, they become weaker, we lose them. So when you, by paying attention, by being mindful of what you do, and taking the time to actually stop the rat race, put the external world on hold, and just take the time for self-care and to look at yourself, you can recuperate much of this mobility simply by doing it, starting doing it. So I'm talking about foundation, like if you can flex and extend your back. Most people lose that, so you use only the neck to look around, the rest of your body doesn't move. This can be regained and recuperated, but you have to actually have the intention of doing it. And we have these clever classes or way of encouraging this kind of movement in the practice. And the Feldenkrais method, and the Feldenkrais, the person who founded this method, was very clever in inventing these kind of classes that brings out some possibilities that you've forgotten that you have.
Thank you. Is the entire concept that actually you don't need to be overwhelmed by the idea of, let's say if you have reduced mobility, or if you already, if you want to just maintain that mobility, I think maybe perhaps a lot of people are overwhelmed by the ideas that they need to perhaps spend an hour in the gym or an hour walking, and maybe they don't have the time because they're busy. And the whole idea is to introduce exercise and movement back into their schedule by committing to a tiny goal of 3 minutes, and by the compounding effect of that, by them moving a tiny bit, they get into action. And because they get into action, they feel like, oh my God, this feels really good. This actually feels not so bad. And therefore, because they're already in action, it's a lot easier for them to continue and to increase the 3 minutes to make it 10 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever it is. Is that the whole concept of committing to something really tiny that in the end compounds to a massive result?
This is where my very particular angle and what I'm offering the world comes in. The persistent growth, the membership that I offer as a daily practice is, as you say, 3 minutes a day. And the idea is to get moving and making it a habit. So when you really stop every day and decide, you make a commitment to take 3 minutes, and most people can find 3 minutes a day to stop performing. We perform the whole day because we have to do things. We need results. So for 3 minutes, you suspend results. You're not looking to reach anything, and you just bring your attention from the external world to yourself. This gesture in itself makes a difference over time. You create this habit of looking at yourself, and of course this permeates the rest of your day. If you do it repeatedly, you don't have to do it you don't just do it for 3 minutes and then forget about it, because you develop the skill of awareness. So you have more awareness of your body, of yourself, of your existence, and of the way you move on a daily basis. So you actually create a journey of improvement, of transformation, and then of course it is not limited to 3 minutes a day. And as I said before, my experience and what I observe in my students is that this kind of practice, just the fact that they feel themselves more, gives them more desire to move. So they tend to move more and do other things. Like they don't just move for 3 minutes and then sit the rest of the day.
Thank you. How does this mindful movement compare to Tai Chi or something similar?
So the mindful movement and the Feldenkrais method and persistent growth, my particular angle, they are part of a family of practices that you could call somatic education. So it's a way of learning, paying attention, being mindful in your body, in movement. And I don't know any other method that doesn't have some kind of a goal. So if you do yoga, if you do Tai Chi, there are forms. You're trying to do them well. There are specific movements that you're trying to do. Really, Feldenkrais is very unique in that it strips the movement from the goal. You're not trying to do the movement better. You're trying to explore yourself in movement. So in this particular way of using mindful movement, you really are just mindful of yourself in movement. You're not trying to do anything. The classes are directed to do specific things, but the instruction is always like, do less. If it hurts, do even less. Do a quarter of what you could do. And if it's uncomfortable, just don't do anything and imagine the movement. So it's really about the working of the mind, of how the brain organizes movement, and not about the movement itself.
That's interesting. Tell us about yourself and why did you start studying Feldenkrais, the mindful movement, and what benefits did it bring to your life?
So I was a professional musician for 30 years. I played the piano and I was an accompanist, which means that my work consisted in accompanying musicians, singers, instrumentalists, in learning their repertoire. I was a university teacher for 30 years, working with music students. So I was sitting many hours at the piano. That was my work. My classes were playing, accompanying at the piano. And I started my musical career with a horrible back pain. My first paid job, I accompanied a singing retreat, like a singing teacher with 10 students, and I was accompanying them in class and working on their repertoire. So many hours at the piano, and I had to lie on the floor between sessions because my back was killing me. And I thought, oh my God, this job is not for me. I can't do it. And Feldenkrais was always there at the background. I grew up in Israel, and the method was developed in Israel, so it's kind of well known. I had a friend who was a Feldenkrais practitioner. I took classes with her, so it was there at the background. And while I was studying music, I was still a student. She told me that this friend of mine in Israel that they're starting a training in Jerusalem, and she's going to be an assistant. And I said, oh yeah, I want to do it. I really didn't know why. It was kind of an instinct, and so my 30 years of career as a pianist was accompanied by 30 years of being a Feldenkrais practitioner as kind of a side gig, but it helped me survive and thrive as a musician, and of course work with my students also in a way that would help them be more conscious of how they move, how they can harm themselves, and how to avoid this, because musicians tend to have injuries very often because they do repeated movements many hours a day. So it was very useful in my work as a musician. And a few years ago, I retired from the university and from professional musicianship, and now I'm dedicating my time to Feldenkrais kind of full time.
Thank you. Tell us where entrepreneurs can find you.
So my homepage is persistent-growth.com. I'm also on Instagram. Well, if you look for persistent-growth, don't forget the dash, .com, you'll find the links to all of to my social media. I have some free offerings that are always there, and my membership, 3 minutes a day, regular practice, is called Persistent Growth.
Follow me for more interviews with world's most innovative health changemakers to live your healthiest life ever.